All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the numbers behind America's two absolute largest state economies to figure out exactly how the Texas financial machine operates. We're talking about two massive titans of American industry, but with completely divergent philosophies on how a state should actually be run. And more importantly, we're going to crack open the ledger, follow the money, and see the actual math that makes it all work.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. The big state rivalry. 2. Cost of living and migration. 3. Under the Texas hood. 4. Funding the Lone Star State. And 5. The future economic outlook. Let's get into it.
Because really, this is the fundamental mystery we're trying to solve today. When you hear that a state collects absolutely zero income tax from its citizens, it naturally begs the question, right? I mean, how on earth do they pay for the roads you drive on, the schools your kids attend, especially for a population that's just booming?
Starting off with Section 1, the big state rivalry.
Philosophically, these two states are basically night and day. On one hand, you have California. They lean heavily on a massive tech sector, Silicon Valley, obviously, paired with a high-tax, strictly regulated environment. On the flip side, you have Texas. They rely on their massive energy industry and a famously business-friendly tax code that really champions low regulation. They represent the two dominant, yet totally conflicting blueprints for how you build a state economy in the U.S. And the sheer scale we're talking about here is just staggering. California's economy is nearly double the size of Texas's. To put that into perspective, if California were its own sovereign country, it would be the fifth largest economy on the entire planet. Texas would be eighth. Now, California also boasts a higher median household income, but the Lone Star State is rapidly catching up in population, currently sitting at 30.5 million compared to California's 39 million. Which brings us to Section 2, cost of living and migration. Because to understand why that population gap is closing so quickly, we have to look at what's actually happening on the ground. You see, the total economic size only tells part of the story. The crucial difference really comes down to your paycheck. Let's say you're a tech worker earning $200,000. In California, you're paying roughly $18,000 in state income tax. They have the highest top state income tax rate in the country, up to 13.3%. In Texas, you pay absolutely zero, nothing. That kind of immediate, year-over-year savings is a massive, massive incentive for both individuals and corporations to pack up and move.
Now combine that huge tax difference with housing costs, and it gets even crazier. The median home price in California is more than double that of Texas. So think about a remote worker keeping their California salary but moving to Texas. It's essentially an instant, massive raise just for renting a moving truck. The financial arbitrage going on here is truly staggering.
And the results of those cost differences speak for themselves. Between 2020 and 2025, Texas added nearly 2.5 million people. That's a 9.1% growth rate. Meanwhile, California actually shrank by 0.3%, largely due to domestic out-migration. Census data confirms it. More people have moved from California to Texas than to any other state. Texas is literally absorbing California's exodus.
Let's move to Section 3, under the Texas hood. We know they're growing, but how are they paying for it all?
Well, we aren't just guessing here. We're pulling our data directly from the state's certified financial estimate submitted to the governor in October 2025 by Acting Comptroller Kelly Hancock. This is the official 2026-2027 certification revenue estimate. It's the literal blueprint of the Texas Treasury. The state expects to collect over $153 billion in taxes for the 2026-2027 biennium. But out of that massive $153 billion pie, the absolute majority doesn't come from oil. And obviously, it isn't income tax, it's sales tax. Sales tax makes up a whopping 61.1%. Since 1988, Texas has kept the lights on primarily through this method. They offset the lack of a personal income tax by heavily taxing consumption to the tune of nearly $94 billion for this upcoming biennium alone. So every single time 32 million Texans buy a pair of jeans, a new phone, or a car, the state treasury fills up. It is a system entirely reliant on consumer spending. Section 4, funding the Lone Star State. Let's look at the rest of that revenue pie. Texas relies on a really fascinating model. Instead of taxing what you earn, they tax what businesses make, pulling in nearly $11 billion in corporate franchise taxes. And they tax the specific goods you buy, including over $12 billion just from motor vehicle sales. And then, of course, there's the famous Texas energy sector. But there's a surprise here. Oil revenues are actually dropping due to lower global market prices, which are hovering around $64 a barrel.
But natural gas is surging to make up the difference. Why? Crypto and data centers. The digital economy, specifically the massive power demands of cryptocurrency mining operations, new AI data centers, and liquefied natural gas exports, is directly feeding a Texas natural gas boom.
All this energy production feeds into something called the Economic Stabilization Fund. It's basically the state's rainy day fund. Now, this is wild. Texas actually collected so much severance tax from oil and gas that they literally maxed out this fund's legal limit. Because it hit its constitutional cap of almost $27 billion, billions of overflow dollars are now being forced straight back into the state's general revenue.
So when you add up all those taxes, factor in federal funds, and include those massive surplus balances rolling over, Texas is walking into 2026 with an eye-watering $203.6 billion available for general purpose spending. That is 1.7% larger than their previous two-year budget. This consumption and energy model is clearly generating just massive amounts of capital.
Finally, Section 5, the future economic outlook.
According to the comptroller's official projections, Texas is going to continue expanding faster than the U.S. average. However, they do expect growth to moderate just slightly. The unemployment rate, which has been historically low, is projected to creep up to an estimated 4.7% by 2027. So the economic engine is still roaring for sure. It's just maybe shifting down a gear.
But as we know, economic metrics don't capture everything, right? When we look at quality of life and citizen health, California maintains a really massive lead. While Texas undoubtedly wins on pure population growth, business relocation, and housing affordability, Californians have lower obesity rates, higher life expectancies, and highly insured populations. In stark contrast to that, Texas actually has the highest uninsured rate in the entire nation, at roughly 17%. It's an incredibly fascinating balance sheet to review. You have California's massive, high-revenue, highly regulated tech engine battling it out against Texas's hyper-growth, consumption-taxed, energy-fueled machine. Both models have undeniable strengths, and both have glaring vulnerabilities. So, as populations shift and industries evolve, it leaves us wondering, which of these two incredible state models will ultimately define the next decade of American prosperity? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you on the next one.